by not being abusive anymore. And you know, from there, Catherine was a catalyst. She learned to love me a different way, and I was like, well, fuck, I don't deserve this woman to be somebody that I'm proud of. And I didn't quit, and I saved my marriage. But James, there's a lot of people um, who do have to walk sometimes.
Right.
And I think though that what we've learned in the work that we've done is that there's a massive gap that needs to be bridged from can I save my marriage to when do I call it quits?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's a hard one, and I know for, gosh, it's just one of those things where you don't even know how to actually begin the conversation because it's so frustrating to begin with that
Hmm.
people even want to have that conversation because what it is that they're desperate. They're desperate to get away from the pain, to get away from the frustration, to get away from all the things that just everybody thinks that freedom is. Well, you know what? I'm free from this because I'm no longer hurting, or I'm no longer, you know, and I'm no longer bound up. And they think, man, if I could just get away. And so they come to find you, and they find me, and they find other people like us, and they start doing some work. And then immediately, like, 2 weeks. Hey, I hadn't screamed in 2 weeks. I hadn't done this in 2 weeks. I haven't done, and I've changed a lot. Now, why is this relationship not healing? Why aren't you getting back into the program? You know what? I'm done. So they start laying boundaries, and really, it's just proof that they're still very much struggling. They're very much emotionally charged, and really fighting out of desperation. And so I like to say, I don't know if we can just give the punchline away at the very beginning, but it's like I tell people, if like I had a lady on the call Monday, she said, "How do I know when it's not going to work? How do I know when I've had enough and enough's enough and I just need to go move on?" I said, "When you can go a year without having that thought."
I think you said 18 months,
Yeah, I said a year to
actually.
18 months without having
Yeah.
that thought at all. Then you can
Hmm.
start going, wait a minute, maybe I need to start motivating with some boundaries. Because that way you're not trying to run from something, that you're literally being someone.
I see. I think that's pure gold. And the thing is, what people have to be aware of is by the time you, so we talk about motivate with boundaries, guys. That's the moral marriage method, right? So we talk about you inspire, you learn, right? That's you learning. So you're starting to lead by inspiration, but you're not really a leader. No one's following you.
Right,
Then you're leading by example. That doesn't mean anyone's following you, your
right,
partner included. Okay. And then you have to ask people or invite them to join. You should want to invite your spouse to join you, even if they're mean, nasty,
right,
kicking you in the nuts is what I say to guys on the calls. I don't care, you know? But then you get to a point where you motivate with a boundary. And see, there's a key part to what James, what you're talking about, and that is that when you motivate with a boundary, you're not asking questions like, how do I know when it's done?
right,
And in fact, you don't have feelings like, fuck you. There's no contempt, you know? When you start to realize that you're just having the best day of your life, no matter what is going on in your life, no matter what your spouse is saying or doing or how they're treating you, but you know who you want to be, you will not feel contempt, resentment, bitterness. In fact, you'll wish the best for your partner
correct.
because when you motivate with a boundary, you're literally saying something like, "Hey, listen, when I'm talking with you on the in a conversation and you're on your phone, I'm gonna stop having a conversation. I'm gonna stop
Yes,
making that effort when I see you're on your phone. And if they don't put their phone down and flip it over at the end of the night and be present with you, then you'll follow through on that boundary. But see, most people won't. They'll react and
right,
they won't enforce, or they'll exit the boundary that they put out. And see, they get to boundaries that are in those after those year to 18 months, you get to this point where your boundaries become too real. Oh, you're always on the phone, so I'm fucking divorcing you. It's that
right.
stupid and that silly sometimes, and you'll
Yeah,
dramatize it and make it much worse, of course.
right.
But isn't it crazy?
It is.
People push the boundaries far too fast,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. And that's and really it's part of what shows that, they're just it let's put it this way. It's not bad that it happens because it happens to everybody. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not sitting here saying, "Oh no, you're really a terrible person," but you're not going to get the results that you're looking for when you're chasing the results rather than being the person that you're trying to be.
Well, that's why you describe it as freedom.
It's freedom. Right. Because
Yes.
if I'm running after something or running from something, I'm not free.
No.
I'm chasing what's not mine, or I'm running from something that I wish would get away from me. And that's not freedom. Freedom is standing still in the midst of everything being on fire, everything, the storms blowing every which way, your skirts up around your ears, and you're soaking wet, and nothing shakes you. You might be a little wet, you might be a little cold, you might be a little lonely, and your hair may look like crap, but the storm doesn't move you. You're like, oh, well, like a free shower, I guess, a free warmth, a free. If there's a fire, put a dag blasted stick out there and put a hot dog or a marshmallow on it. And it's not a nonchalant attitude. It's literally that when you are free, you're no longer troubled and moved or driven by the anxiety, the chaos, the discomfort, or the frustration. You're standing where you are. And it was my mentor back in like 2004, 2005 that said that to me. James, you got a lot of charisma and you have the potential to lead a lot of people in your future. And he said it this way. He's sitting in my car. We're driving from the airport and he looks over at me. He's a 6'6" guy. He's a real big guy, He says, but if you are out there one day and you're going and you're leading and you turn around, there's nobody behind you, you're only a man taking a walk. And I'm like,
I love that.
It's just so powerful. I didn't understand. I was, in my late 20s at the time. I didn't understand what that was. But then looking back over the last 3 or 4 years, I realized you're leading people no matter what. The question is, are you leading them to where they need to be?
Dennis and I trained some men yesterday on a call, and we talked about that. We specifically said, we come down on men for not being leaders.
Right.
A lot of women recognize they don't want a man to lead anymore. They can't count or trust on men in general, so they don't need it or want it. Well, I'll talk about that with Catherine. Catherine will say herself that I didn't even know I needed a leader.
Right.
In fact, one of the songs that I just wrote, I talked about her being a powerhouse alpha. She is, right?
Yeah.
But we associate that with the quality of leadership that a man has. But what we told and we would pinpoint and put on the men on the call yesterday was you guys actually have led your way. And Catherine taught me this. It was just on a discussion on a podcast one day. But if you've led your wife through defensiveness, through blame, ladies, you're not off the hook. If you're criticizing, you're not being the woman you're supposed to be. You're not lifting your husband. You're victimizing yourself. When men and women do this, they victimize themselves, and you actually perpetuate or enable the behavior you don't like. So all these fights or the awkward silences, the sexless marriage, whatever it is, which means if you did that, you led that in your own life.
Yep.
Because it wasn't just one day my husband or my wife was an asshole or a cunt.
Right. And then I like to differentiate here is that we are 100% responsible for 100% of things that we are responsible for.
Yes,
the other
sir.
person is also for themselves, not each other, not in the way of, and then the other thing too is it could be your responsibility, but it doesn't have to be your guilt. We have to stop thinking that I've done this and now I'm guilty or, it's my fault. Those words, while true in some sense, they carry a conviction. They carry an indictment that adds to a lack of understanding and a lack of identity. And so when we get to this point, we have to recognize that the best thing to say is, okay, I'm taking responsibility. I'm going to be who I'm supposed to be. So I'm no longer adding to the mess. I'm not the problem anymore. I am the solution. But my solution is not for me to bring the solution out of somebody else or make them change. My solution is that I'm no longer adding to the mess. The mess is still there. And then the other person can decide, you know what, I want to clean up too. And I want to follow them. And then what I've always thought about when it comes to leadership is not a role that somebody has, or it's a responsibility. And so we're leading. The question is to where. So we think, well, the person's not following me, so I got to get behind them and tell them what to do. That's not a leader. That's a slave driver. That's a boss. Nobody wants a boss. So when we get to the place where we're going, well, what happens, man? My spouse is not growing with me. So we've got this tether. We've got this rope that tied us together. We're together and we're doing what we need to do. We're growing day to day. I'm growing. Now they're not growing. They've sat down like a stubborn child at the end of the bottom of the hill. Eventually that tether is going to get tighter. Now that's where we have a decision to make. I've grown and the distance between me and my spouse gets tighter, further and further and tighter in the sense of growth. It's not because I'm avoiding, it's because I'm always showing up. I'm always giving bids. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. Why? Because it's who I am. Their response is not our responsibility. But eventually, they've got a decision to make. They're either going to close that gap because, or they're going to get dragged a little bit, or they're going to take something and cut that line.
Mm.
But neither of those are our responsibility. And there may be a time where we grow so far that we look over our shoulder every day and we say, hey, here I am. Let's go. Come on. Here I am. Come with me. And we might pause for a minute, but we never stop and we never quit. And that's the thing. When the relationship gets there, there's one fourth option that I like to talk about when I used to do marriage counseling. And that is sometimes you keep moving and that person digs down so hard that it snaps the line.
Mm.
But that's still not your choice.
It's still not your
It's
fault.
not your fault. It just
That's right.
is. And you can come and turn around and still beckon them to come, but the tether is no longer there. And when the relationship changes, and sometimes it separates forever, it doesn't mean that you failed. It just is because you did everything. And I personally believe that's a 12 to 18 month period of you being in that lead position.
And then if you truly love your spouse, you're not in a rush. It's not massive big
No,
boundaries.
it's not
It's like the
small.
conversation one that I talked about. It's like
Right.
what what you're experiencing for family time. It's like maybe budget things, for example. You're not going anywhere near the D word. Divorce doesn't come onto the table because you truly love this person. And
Right.
in your growth, if you truly are growing, when you're thinking about when is it time to quit, how do I allow myself to get closure? So how do I grieve this so I can move on? You have to realize that your decision making process of how I stick around, what I do, this is when you know, well, I just love this person.
Yeah.
And the way that I like to teach this is like, if Catherine died tomorrow, I'm not going to go date tomorrow.
Right.
Like, if you're, and I know that's extreme, okay? But I think about it like, if I teach it this way and I'm like, well, people would be like, well, dude, it's time to move on. It's been a few years. You know, kids will do that to you. I'd be like, well, fuck, man, I still love this woman and I want to see her in fucking heaven. You know what I mean? I don't know how the fucking rules in heaven, but I can't have fucking 2 wives, 3 wives, 5 wives in heaven. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how it works. You've got more expertise in that, but I ain't risking it, man, no matter what, because it's still going to be your opinion and your guess.
That's right.
Right? And so I think, why do we have to think about it like, oh, my partner won't grow with me? What if they died, man?
Yeah.
Every man that fucking starts dating or starts going to get laid after, when we see him through like exit our program and he comes back and he says, oh, my life is so great, it's never worked out for that man again.
That's right.
He's still repeating his fucking patterns,
That's right.
his cycles, and that means he didn't love his wife. So all that blame that he fucking had,
Yeah.
oh boy, it's exposed the lack of
Yeah.
work rather that he hasn't done.
And we define, well, we as in me and the people in my circles like to define love as an act of the will to put someone else's needs as a priority as if they're your own.
Mm-hmm.
And so love is not a feeling. Affection is a feeling and all these other things that come with love, but they ebb and flow. They come and go. Okay. But love is a decisive act of the will. It's something we choose to do. I choose this person today. I see them with empathy. I see them with compassion. And no matter how much I'm hurting, I'm growing. And these triggers are no longer something that trash me. These triggers are now a treasure for me because they help me remember what used to drive me and rule me. Now I rule me. And then because I rule myself, I can love this person in truth. And that's something that intimacy and truth is something that a lot of people don't even understand. That's something we could talk about maybe next week. But it's really important to understand that when we get to a place of thinking, do I quit? Here's sort of the tongue-in-cheek type thing. The true person who leads never quits. Even if the relationship severs, it's not because they quit. It's because they kept going. It's because they kept driving. It's because they kept growing.
Yes.
And the other person just said, I can't do this. I'm not.
And you will be like compassionate and empathetic.
Yeah.
You will want the best for them. You will hope that they'll lift, they'll grow. You will, sometimes you might even unfortunately want their rock bottom, but not in an ill way, in a way that they'll start to feel like, oh my gosh, it's time to take control of my life too.
That's right.
But here's the thing. See, everybody's going to get to a state and I, believe it or not, I was this man in every relationship before Catherine. In fact, every time I left Catherine, every time I slept on the couch, every time we were going to get divorced, when I thought I was going to jail, everything was like, you'll see. I always had this attitude of, you'll see how much you fucked up. In fact, I don't think I ever said that to Catherine, but I said it to girls that I dated
Right.
before. Okay. And dude, no one ever called me back and said, you were right. I miss you. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure if I didn't get my shit together and actually grow beyond the surface level of I've tried everything, if I would have left Catherine for good, or if she would have left me, she never would have called.
Right.
No matter how much I go on social media proclaiming how to be better, how to grow, the obvious proof that I'm a different man. And we were listening to songs yesterday, James, and these are songs that I'm writing, guys, just like my written post, like to just put you guys in where you're at so you can finally find some answers.
Yeah.
And it's just because music connects everybody. And we played it for somebody yesterday, and she cried. She just bawled. One of the songs reminded her of her divorce and the feeling she was going through, and it just opened up a beautiful conversation. And Catherine just looked at me and was like, "I just can't even believe like who you used to be. Like it's so far from where you are
Yeah.
now, right?" But see, if I didn't have the attitude I have, if I didn't have the attitude which is I am not leaving my fucking wife, I am going to grow up.
Right.
I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to become someone new. I don't like this old me. It's not that I'm better than Catherine. It's that she doesn't deserve this guy.
Right.
I deserve better too, by the way.
Mm.
Otherwise, we would have split, and Catherine never would have called me and said, "You were right."
That's right.
Like,
And
let's get real.
and the mindset there, I deserve better than this, is not I deserve better than you. It's that you deserve better than this. I deserve better than this. We deserve better than this. And
Marriage
we're
is a
not
unity.
settling anymore for this
Mhm.
baloney. And that's when the growth begins to take on a whole new picture. And the hardest thing about it is that when you actually grow and you realize that the person that you've always been was not really you, the
Mhm.
person that you're with is not really them. Now everybody's new. You have to restart. You have to regrow. You have to relearn each other, because you have to learn to love the real person, not the idea of what they were.
Which is what people do. You love an idea. You get married because of the idea and the promises of the idea of the goals and the future, the fairy tale, whatever the fuck, you know? But you don't, we believe this wholeheartedly. Nobody even knows who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
Nobody.
That's right.
It's something we've been talking about for years.
Yeah.
People are talking about identity like crazy. It's a buzzword right now. It's like, fuck, you're just
Yeah.
catching on now. Like we understand this because we broke ourselves down to the ground,
Yes.
and then we rebuilt ourselves as new men. Catherine as a new woman, the people in our programs that are innovative and coaching with us. Like it's because when you understand the idea, the dream that you fucking had was just a fucking dream.
That's right.
The most exciting thing is what you just talked about, James.
Right.
I get people motivated sometimes when I start going, because I'm like, this is one of the most exciting things you do. You get to know your wife again.
Yeah.
What's her favorite color? What's your favorite song?
A lot of people couldn't even tell that.
Oh my gosh, they don't even know the basic shit. But by the way, your favorite color changed too.
Yeah.
Mine
it
does.
It,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not for everybody, but if you can just move past that stupid example and just
Mhm.
think about how fun it is to get to know yourself again and get curious
Curious.
asking about your partner. Because man alive, man, when you get to know their soul, everything about them again,
Yeah.
you get to bring them back to life. That is fucking exciting. And so when I think like that, I don't think, man, it's tough today. Catherine was kind of mean. I want to
Yeah.
quit, or I want to fight. I want to get defensive. Actually, I just want to understand.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. And it's we talked about yesterday. It's not easy. The work is hard. Self-work is the hardest, because you have to sit in the discomfort. You have to sit in the space. You have to go through the grief. A lot of people try to get through the grief. Let's just get to the grief and get to the glory. You can't get to the glory without the grief. You can't get the six pack without the frustration, without the
Yes.
pain. You can't grow. You can't learn a language without sounding like an idiot. You have to learn the language of your true self. And then in that, once that is settled, then you can begin to live that life and learn the language of another person as they learn it themselves. Sometimes you'll learn it before they will. But we don't just throw our hands up because, you know what, now I've transformed and everything's good for life. This is a problem this is an albatross around my neck. Let me just get rid of my spouse. Let me get rid of this issue that I've got here. No, now because of who we are. Now, if that's who you are, that's who you are. But I don't believe that's who anybody is. I believe that's just a way of trying to run away and get to another place. But here's the thing. You get partially free and then you run from a relationship and then you get into a new one. The same shit, wherever you were before, is going to be where you are today. So you've got to be patient enough, not with just your spouse, but with yourself. But at the same time, don't be complacent with yourself. Understand you got to continue to grow. And until you are mature in that emotion, in that emotional intelligence, in that space of identity, and the understanding of the tools that you embody, you live and you do the things you do because it's who you are, not because you're trying to get appreciation or connection or intimacy or whatever it is that you're trying to get, to be liked or to be loved. You're loved. And then you love yourself, you can love someone else. And if you know yourself, they can know you. And until you're there for a good season, presenting day after day, bid after bid, there's not even a conversation about leaving the relationship. Give it.
You know what?
I mean, I honestly would say 2 years would probably
Fuck,
be.
I say, what if it takes 4 years?
What
We
if
were
it
talking about
does?
yesterday, and actually in my life, it was the 4 years. The reason I say that is because that's when, I mean, we're always improving. So even though it takes time, okay, and in some people's case, you won't be improving, but
That's
you'll be improving.
right.
Okay, the marriage won't be, but you'll be.
That's right.
Okay, and that's what we're talking about. But this is where I love it. I love it when we get to have real conversations, James, because if you think about it, how hypocritical is the person who's thinking about quitting, who's following Catherine and me, right? When Catherine literally was the catalyst. So every person that says, yeah, but I do this and they do that, and usually it's they do that and then they build themselves up with the I.
Yep.
Okay, how hypocritical are you? How could you possibly think it's time to quit? If Catherine, she didn't take my abuse anymore, but she didn't run from herself anymore.
Right.
That means that if she sat there while I screamed all night or lectured all night, it didn't mean that she was sitting there checked out. It meant that she was trying to understand who I was.
Right.
And then it wasn't the time, but she could come back with something she learned about me in that all night lecture or rage that
Yeah.
she could then use to soften me the next day.
Mm.
How fucking powerful is that?
Yeah. That's
But yet people who follow us go, I don't know, I tried everything already and it's time to quit.
yeah.
I think you got to take a hard look at yourself. If you are following us and you know how abusive I used to be and what we came back from
Yes.
and the lesson that we're teaching right now.
Yeah. If that language is in your mouth, I've tried everything. You haven't.
Yeah, no, because isn't that the biggest telltale sign that
Oh,
somebody
it's- yeah.
hasn't grown?
It's like somebody
Like-
walking in with a a 12-pound lizard on their face to me. It's like, what?
Because when you've tried a lot, not everything, when
Not
you've
ev-
tried a lot, you start to realize, oh, what else can I learn? What else is there?
Right.
What else can I create? What can I do on my own? What can I think of? And you get excited about it.
Yes.
Not necessarily to go coach, but because if you think about it, like we didn't create our programs, not mine, the reset, not Catherine's, the white picket fence, not yours, Path to Freedom. We didn't create them for you. We give them to you now,
Yes.
but we created them for our own lives.
That's right.
That's how you know you haven't tried everything.
That's right.
When you start to realize, I've tried a lot. What else is there?
Yeah.
Because this is cool. Then you start to get fucking moving.
That's right.
And then your patience actually grows for your partner.
Yeah.
Your empathy. I'll use Catherine as an example again for me. But that was when she would be like, oh my gosh, well, what did he go through as a child that made him this way?
Yeah.
I thought he was abused, but like, my gosh, his whole life, he's destroying everything and everyone in his life, everyone that comes into his path. And that's when she learned how to love me in a way that lifted me, that made me go, whoa, what else is there? That was the first time I learned
Right.
that there was more to learn,
That's right.
right?
That's an old adage that I've had with me for a very long time. Since honestly, my oldest daughter was born in 1998. I learned it this year that leaders are learners, and anyone who is not learning isn't leading anyone, especially
Oh
themselves.
gosh.
You know,
Oh,
you may. I mean, I'm an expert on my life, but I don't know squat about myself as much as I'm going to know tomorrow. I'm always learning. And just like we talked this morning, we talked for a good hour and something this morning, just wonderful conversation. We should have broadcast it. But, you know, I've learned more in the last 2 months about me that I could have read 1,000 books and never understood it. Because until you walk the path, you don't get it. You really just don't get it. And that's something else too, that there's a lot of people, I don't want to really get out of what we're trying to talk about here, but I think it just connects in such a way, is that a lot of people, they're so desperate to actually fix something rather than be someone, that they're going after everything. They'll come to our program, they'll come to your program, they'll come to this book or that seminar, they'll watch this podcast and this YouTube video. And then what's happening is there's some good stuff out there, but inadvertently, they're going to end up having a lot of dirt, trash, and other stuff that's just sprinkly out on the outside, like, not even good stuff, but it's good enough to get you motivated, get you a little dopamine hit. You go in and you try it, and you're so diversified that you become distracted. Distracted. Yeah. And a lot of people get distracted, and then they get discouraged, and then they start to spiral, then they want to quit. Why? Because it's not working. Well, you know what the working is you maintaining a sense of consistency for a year or more, every single day. And when you're not consistent, I use this idea on anything, any discipline that I've ever taught. And I have a really good framework of learning new stuff and getting disciplined and getting to a place of almost mastery on a lot of different things. But the truth is it's about consistency. When you don't get, let's just say tomorrow, you don't do it well or you don't show up, you don't quit. You just do it the next day. And I use but you don't understand, it's just so hard. I feel like a failure. Have you ever not pooped? Do you just not ever poop again? Have you ever not eaten? Do you just say, you know what? I skipped lunch yesterday. I just didn't have time to eat. I'm a terrible consumer of the food that I need to live. I'm just not going to ever eat it. I'm just going to starve myself.
Yeah, but you got a bigger problem, because most of you guys will be like, oh yeah, you know what? I can't poop because of that damn fucking food I ate, that people who make it put the wrong ingredients in, or however the fuck you blame.
Shame the blame. I mean, yeah.
Yes, it's inherently, when we think about when is it time to quit, inherently, most of you will never get to a point where you actually did enough work to prove to yourself that you're worth it. In fact, you're quitting to prove to yourself that you're worth it.
That's right.
That's it's backwards. You talk about people learning and getting distracted. Fuck, man. The last coach I spent money on was $100 grand. It was Andy Elliott last summer. Okay. And we did absolutely everything he said, but I didn't go through the whole program. But there's a difference. I've already spent almost $800,000. Catherine's doing a new master's, by the way. But like we've spent the time learning, so we can identify what we need to focus on. I can ask the right questions. I can say, well, I don't think I need this. I need this, and we can move. But when I started, man, I'd stay up all night and just do it from start to finish.
Yes.
Just start to finish. Just do the work. Because I want to say this again, people inherently quit because they don't get what they want from their partner, instead of realizing that you're trying to feel good enough by leaving your partner.
Right.
If you do the work, you feel great no matter what your partner says or does. And I'm talking bad shit here.
That's right.
Serious shit.
Right.
Like, I was violent with Catherine.
Yeah.
Okay? So I don't say this because I want you to stay in a violent situation. Of course not.
Right.
What I'm saying is, almost always, you're going to build it up into something that tears you down.
Yes.
So much more, and you're going to justify quitting.
Right.
In the time frame so that you can just feel better about yourself.
Right.
I've said that 3 different ways. Rewatch the live if you didn't catch on.
Right. Yeah. And one of the biggest things, as far as some people think about, what, I just don't feel like I can do anything but give up. Well, that's where you need support. That's where you need a people. That's where you need community. That's where you need to.
Yeah, we call it family.
Family. You need support. No one is an island unto themselves.
Oh gosh, no.
And no one who is an island is alive. The worst place in the world is to be someone who avoids intimacy because of fear of being victimized. Now, many times we are victims, but we choose to make that an identity. If I'm a victim, I'm not a victim. I've been victimized. I've had people hurt me physically and emotionally and financially. I've had people make fun of me. I've been bullied in 3rd grade. I mean, we've all been victims, but I'm not a victim. I'm a guy who experienced some bullying. I'm a guy who experienced some hard times. Mm-hmm. I'm not even a victor. I didn't have to overcome that. It doesn't matter. Who I am today is not who I was yesterday. And who I am today is not bound to the decisions that I've made 20 years ago. When you end up in a situation where you're still constantly trying to get out of how you feel about what's happened to you, you can never grow and you can never be free, because you're free of that fear, or you're free of that experience, you're free of that pain in the real present action of it, but you're choosing to stay suffering in your own mind because you'd rather have the tether and the sympathy of what you went through from the world around you than to actually chart a path for yourself in the world and watch people watch you and go, wow, I want to follow you.
Ding, 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 ding.
And if
You know?
if you're doing that in the world, you're definitely doing it in your marriage.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's one of the. We got to end this, but it's one of the things that we really should end with is that if we can see it when we're on the phone with you, if we can read your comment on social media, if we can hear you on a coaching call, and if we can tell and we can say something like, "Ooh, is that how you talk to your wife?
Mm,
Ooh, is that how you talk to your husband?
mm,
Is that what you do with your wife, your husband?"
yeah,
If we can see it, oh fuck, you're doing it. And most of the time, it's sometimes when you grow, it's so subtle.
yeah,
It is so subtle. You're like, that was really good response. That was great leadership. But the very first thing you said was defensive. And you
yeah.
don't even know.
Don't even know it.
You're building yourself up or you're tearing them down in that. And so they checked out. You missed them. The leadership failed. Now you're the man that James was talking about, that you turn around and nobody's there.
Yeah,
So the first part you guys need to understand is when you learn to lead, to really get where you go. So you don't have to quit. You don't have to give up on decades or your family. You can give in to the beautiful thought of eternity. The first thing you need to realize is when you lead, you get to lead and you just get to lead yourself.
that's right.
You get to feel proud about who you are. I'll never forget when Catherine tore me down. Like, I mean, tore me down.
Mm,
Like, I can't get into the story because she's not ready to share it, but it was recent. It was in the Christmas. She tore me down. And
mm,
man, I felt I wasn't perfect. You know, you were there. You were at our
yeah,
house, James.
yeah,
But I wasn't perfect, but I was proud of who I was because it was such a direct reflection of who I am today versus who I was before in the past.
right.
The old me would have fucking destroyed her. I think I might have thrown her off the fucking deck, actually.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah,
like I can't be certain, but I know there's certain things that I would be. Like I would have flipped my table over.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would have fucking
Well,
thrown that at her, something.
we,
And so what the first step of leading guys, knowing you're truly proud of who you are, is not just not doing the bad behavior, but it's knowing that no matter what chaos comes in your way,
yeah,
that you're going to lead yourself and you're going to be proud of who you are.
that's right.
And almost nobody's going to do that if they're asking the question, when do I quit?
Yeah, that's right.
Anything you want to say to finish, James?
No, brother, just as long as you're trying to quit or deciding if you need to quit, you just need to stay. You need to set some patience in your life. And I like to define patience as waiting with intention and boundaries. So what it means is the reason I'm waiting, and that's because I want to give a chance. And then I'm going to reevaluate at the end of the boundary of the deadline. And it's just a personal thing. Just be patient and then get the help you need. Come around people who are not just talking about it, but who have walked it and who are where you want to be.
I love that. I love that.
All right.
All right, guys, we're going to see you again tomorrow. I
Tomorrow.
can, if you're patient, I'll give you the time because we have to move the schedule around a little bit for you guys. But we want to go live a lot for you guys, man. We just love, love, love giving. I wrote that in the song as one of the criteria to be a leader. You got to learn to give.
That's right. That's right.
All right, so tomorrow, guys, we're live at noon Central Time,
Noons.
1 p.m. Eastern Time. And it can be helpful if you comment on the lives and tell us the times that you like. Because sometimes you guys say things like, damn, I missed this one. If you tell us what you need, we love to give.
There you go.
Okay? All right, guys. We will see you next time.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.